As teachers, we see it every day. Kids glued to iPads, phones, screens everywhere. Today, let's look at what too much screen time really does to children and why it's more serious than most parents realize.
That was last week. Let's move on. Chapter 2. Can we please do that?
Posture.
Where's my iPad?
Come and sit down.
No, where's my iPad?
Come and sit down. Miley,
My iPad.
calm down.
Give me my iPad!
It's like when you're addicted to something. You know, if you take someone's alcohol away, or you take their cigarettes away, or you try and stop them from something that they need, they go ballistic. And that's her reaction.
We cannot teach your children anymore. I've been a teacher for 15 years. Things are not the way they used to be. Children are coming into our classroom now and they cannot pay any attention more than a few seconds at a time. It's not just the attention span that's been affected. Children don't even have the ability to communicate with one another or adults anymore. Interpersonal skills are in the toilet. And yes, that has everything to do with electronics.
These days, it's tough to find kids who can't sit through story time without reaching for something.
Children as young as 5 and 6 are having high anxiety. I don't care what anybody says, that's not normal. Like, y'all, we are in absolute crisis. The amount of teachers that I have seen leave the profession over these last few years is staggering. What makes this even worse is that parents are like, oh, well, maybe you just don't know how to hold their attention. It's ridiculous. Y'all are literally ruining an entire generation because you just don't want to be parents. You shouldn't have had kids then. Not against screen time, but I'm telling you that these kids are not right in the head. Because from birth to 5 years is when the biggest brain development window is happening. Y'all are putting them in front of electronics. Their neurons are not connecting properly. Whose fault is that? That'd be you.
Studies show that over half of kids start using screens before the age of 3. That early exposure can shape how they focus, learn, and interact with others. Even in my class, some students struggle to finish a 10-minute task. Excessive screen time trains the brain to expect constant stimulation.
You see a kid on their iPhone or iPad at a restaurant does not mean that they're an iPad.
Yes, it does. If the kid can't go 15 minutes, you say, without, having an iPad in their face for constant stimulation, that is kind of by definition an iPad kid. And don't get me wrong, like, if you want to raise your kid that way, no shame. It just becomes society's problem when they get older, But yeah, they're an iPad kid. And what's wild to me is that with all the studies coming out and all the teachers and other professionals that deal with Gen Alpha kids are saying, like, hey, these kids aren't well adjusted, there's serious issues going on. The parents of those Gen Alpha kids are like, must be gluten, I guess. Couldn't possibly be the tablet or the phone that we put in front of their face since they were 1 year old that has highly addictive, highly stimulating media. But that's not to say that media is bad. Millennials and Gen Z, we all consume media growing up. We all play video games. We all watch TV. But it's very different than the TV shows and media and video games that kids are consuming in the younger generations. And so with all of that going on, I don't know why parents aren't, noticing it and taking more, initiative to not raise iPad babies. But, guess we'll never know.
Well, I saw this TikTok video where they judged all the new shows, whether there are excessive cuts every few seconds, the different colors that they use, the sounds. And you have to understand that all these shows try and get your child to constantly watch. So they put in quick cuts, flashy colors, different sounds to keep them engaged. And so the kids' brains start needing more of this. The time I started noticing it was with Fast and the Furious. I can't sit through any of those movies because you can count less than 5 seconds they would make cuts in the movie. Or watch a Fast and the Furious movie. 1, 2, 3. So even long shots, they put in all these cuts to keep people engaged. And it's made for younger viewers. But for me, I couldn't sit through it because it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Even in a conversation, it's too fast. And that isn't good for kids, especially if they're young.
Hey, Jordan. Thanks for coming in. I wanted to talk to you about your test. I'm having a little bit of trouble.
Did I get an A?
No. It's actually why I want to talk to you. I'm having a bit of trouble reading your handwriting.
Yeah, I didn't want to handwrite it.
I understand, but during the test, you told me your battery died and you forgot your charger.
Why didn't you give me another laptop?
Well, Jordan, I didn't have another laptop.
Oh, because you're poor?
No, not because I'm poor. Jordan, let's get back on track. Look, I've really tried, but there's no way I can read this.
Yeah, I can't read it either. This is the first time I've done this.
First time doing a handwritten test?
No, handwriting.
Right. All right. Well, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to let you retake the test using your laptop. Jordan, are you listening? Jordan, let's put away the phone. I'm going to let you retake the test on your computer. Does that sound good? You're shrugging your shoulders. What's wrong, Jordan?
Well, I've already taken the test, and it was really boring, and I have to take it again. So I'm just really worried that I'm going to be bored.
I don't think kids can be bored these days. You know, they require constant stimulation, and that's not good. They've got to be able to be bored. But, you know, it's easy for us to judge. You know, we grew up without phones or iPads, or, well, at least I did until I was a teenager. That's when I got my first phone. And then it was like, what was it? Not the Samsung, the Nokia with the snake game that you played, Nokia 3110. I don't know if any of you remember that. So yeah, that was my first phone, and I was a teenager back then. Probably shows my age. But yeah, kids these days, it's easy for us to judge them. But now, when I take a bus or a train, or when I have to wait, I'm on my phone too. I think the change needs to start with us.
Our iPad parents, if you try to give us some kind of advice and you don't have kids.
I just recently posted a video about how parents in my age bracket have dropped the ball in raising kids these days, and there were two camps of parents in the comment section. The first camp were very open-minded, very self-aware parents who, upon listening to all 10 points, reflected on their own parenting style and thought, man, I was really scared to hear this list, but after hearing it, I can totally see where some of the things that I'm doing in my own house are affecting my child. And the other group of parents were saying, you know, I'm just tired of parents being criticized for every little thing on this app, especially millennial parents. And it doesn't matter if you have 13 years of classroom experience as a professional educator. I don't care what opinions you have about parenting. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. As a millennial person who works with children, I work with your kids, and I can see how iPads are disrupting your child's development and their educational experience. Not only that, it is socially stunting them in ways that you cannot understand at home. What you're seeing at home is a very passive, very entertained child, because you don't have to deal with any of those behaviors that we see in the classroom when there are 20 other students surrounding them who do not have regulated behaviors, and they don't have access to iPads themselves to keep them busy. You do not let your child be bored at home. You do not interact with your child enough at home for them to be mentally stimulated. Their tactile abilities are stunted. Their fine motor skills are stunted. Their sense of creativity is stunted. And their attention spans last about 5 seconds. Not to mention they act like addicts because they can't have technology in their hands 24/7. But by all means, go off. If you don't want to listen to somebody that has several degrees in education and over a decade of experience working with not just your child, but hundreds and thousands of other people's kids, that's fine. You just keep doing what you're doing. And then in 10 years, we'll check back in and see how well your child is doing.
Okay, Teresa. Well, we don't have to double down. We can see your teacher and the experience and the degrees. You know, you don't have to push it into people's faces. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Although, 10 years from now, let's see how your child's doing. Because, you know, I think what the parents are saying is like, we're getting judged by people, but it's difficult. So yeah, we've got to help parents. Not everyone has all the tools they need. So, you know, we need to support each other and be kind.
Struggling the most with children who are struggling the most in the classroom to adapt with social and educational settings, and the ones who are struggling the most to take their kids out in public without having to put a screen in their face to make it work for them and for their child, are the ones who refuse to listen to any third-party advice or opinions about parenting and about parenting with technology. The parents who are the most defensive in conversations like this are the ones who are the most guilty of doing whatever it is we're discussing. In the face of scientific studies, in the face of psychological studies and data about how this is affecting our children, in the face of expert opinions from professional educators all across the country, you still, despite all of those things, refuse to listen to anybody. And that is simply because putting an iPad in front of your kid's face makes your job easier.
You know the term, obviously, iPad kids. Scrolling. These rapid dopamine hits. Now, that kid's going to grow up, probably develop sexual interest, probably discover porn. Dopamine hits.
Yep.
Okay? A little older than that, he's going to get introduced to vapes. Dopamine hits. Then he gets a little older, he wants to date. He's going to download an app. What's that going to be? Dopamine hits. And what you're going to have, a generation of dopamine addicts. There's a fantastic book, actually, called The Anxious Generation. If you listen to Loveline, you have children, please read that book. And I know it's tough, dude. You don't always want to watch the kid.
Right.
Like, I'm not even a parent. I can empathize with that. You wake up some days, you don't want to be a mom. You don't want to be a dad. It's a job I have to show up to every day. It's exhausting.
Yeah, but there's a difference between like a 30-minute screen time versus like 5-hour screen time. And with children with developing brains, 30-minute screen time is fine. 5-hour screen time is going to have long-term effects.
I'm bitter, and I have a right to be. Because now everybody's getting on here talking about how Gen Alpha is a mess. Can't read, badly behaved, not nurtured, raised by an iPad. Back in 2020, start of the pandemic, I was 18 years old. I hadn't even decided I wanted to become a teacher yet. That wasn't even a thought yet in my mind. I made a video about it saying this pandemic was going to destroy the new generation. And everyone had a problem. All my comments, you don't even have kids. You can't have an opinion on this. Wait till you have your own kids. You're mommy shaming, you're parent shaming. Some of these kids, 2, 3 years old, have iPads and they seem perfectly fine. We don't even know if it's going to stunt their development yet. Now you're up on here begging for help with your 5-year-old because you don't know what to do when they throw a temper tantrum after you turn the TV off. I had a 30-some-odd-year-old couple make 7 videos in a row about me on their page saying our 2-year-old daughter uses an iPad and she's fine. Her development's perfectly normal. No problems. How's your 5-year-old now? Can she read? How are those report cards? How are those parent-teacher meetings? You still watching? Because I've been here. Some of us have been here. We've been saying this. Raise your kids. Get it together. I became a teacher for a reason. I also stopped being a teacher for a reason because you people are not raising your children and you want us to do it for you, but your child sucks.
Okay, well, not a great attitude, but she does raise some fair points. You know, a lot of teachers feel like they have these kids that they're not supposed to teach, they're supposed to raise.
Your child has no concept of the real world and how it works because you sat an iPad in front of its face and let it put its sticky fingers all over the screen for the first 4 years of its entire life.
Yeah, some kids become frustrated or anxious when they can't use their devices. Kids with 4 or more hours of screen time daily are more prone to anxiety and mood swings.
As a former early childhood special education teacher, I can also identify the iPad kids when I see them because they often can't stimulate themselves in an environment without a screen. They literally sit there doing nothing, or they show behaviors causing us to essentially put out fires because no matter what we do, it will never produce the same stimulation as a screen will give a child, especially a child who is addicted to the screen. And like I've said before in the previous video, brain research will show that screen time is addicting in young children. And this is why we say, don't have a kid if you're just going to put a screen in front of their face. Literally look at that child. They don't know how to regulate their emotions. They can't calm themselves down. They can't find stimulation in their environment through a different source of means. They rely solely on the screen for stimulation. And when I would work with kids on the autism spectrum, it's so interesting how they all knew how to operate our staff iPads, but couldn't do a simple request that they have had on their IEP for almost 2 years. So you're telling me your kid sits in front of a screen all day and is a pro at it, so then what are you doing as a parent to give them that same amount of time so that they're a pro at their IEP goals?
I work in social work, and this might be completely obvious to other young families, but this is the #1 factor that I've seen across all of the families that I work with need a lot of help in child rearing and understanding where their children's behaviors are coming from. But the number one thing, if I had to put it down to just one factor, it's YouTube. All of these kids are obsessed with YouTube and obsessed with watching like Roblox videos, any kind of videos of like other kids playing. It's actually rotting their brains. Block YouTube if you have young kids. Do not let them watch that. It's so horrendous.
We're iPad parents. If you try to give us some kind of advice and you don't have kids,
I don't have kids, but I get to work with yours. I know exactly which students in my classroom have an iPad at home and which ones don't. Your child may be able to sing the ABCs and recite it perfectly, or count to 10 or 20 or more than that, but do they have fine motor skills? Are they able to use a pincer grasp in day-to-day tasks? Not to mention, more than often, children who have unlimited screen time at home have behavioral issues in the classroom that you don't see at home because there's more students and less attention on them in a classroom environment than there is at home. I'm all for using iPads at the grocery store, on a car drive, but there is no need for your child to be on an iPad every single day.
So imagine sitting all day with a tablet. The kids become less active. There's also probably a problem with the light, that they don't sleep as well. So, you know, they're fatigued. And you can see a class get restless very quickly after long sessions. One student's math scores dropped dramatically because homework screens turned into games and videos. Studies show excessive screen usually correlates with lower academic achievement. A lot of students have virtual autism, where they avoid eye contact and can hardly even speak, you know, when they're at home because they're constantly on their screens. Some children develop social withdrawal, which experts call virtual autism. I think a lot of small changes can help. Families should have screen-free meals or play outside together. Take small steps, you know, even like 30 minutes of outdoor activities every day can make a huge difference in behavior and attention.